Kobe. The dish I'm going to be showing you guys today, it's a little spin on a pasta dish my mom used to make growing up. I'm the youngest of three boys. As you can probably imagine, that's a lot to feed. So her goal was trying to basically make something, largest amount of volume to feed us so we would stop bothering her to eat, stop asking to go to McDonald's. So the first thing we're going to start with, is we're using turkey as our protein. Typically when my mom did this, she used to just buy sausages, just local supermarket, cut them open from the casing and do that there. Daniela, I know, has a lot of fun facts about turkey and switching over from turkey from our red meat.
That's what dietitians do. We have fun facts about turkey. Yes, and that's right. So would you call this recipe turkey, tomato, and spinach pasta, or does it have
there's no traditional name. It was kind of like a one-pot pasta dish. Like even when it comes to the noodles, it was whatever's cheapest, whatever's in the pantry. You can do it with penne noodles, you can do it with farfalle, you can do it with whatever kind of noodle works. It's just kind of size-wise,
So that's what's great about it is that, we know that reducing our intake of red meat is one of the cancer risk reduction recommendations. And so is this usually with, you said sausage?
Yeah, usually with sausage, yeah.
So replacing it with the beef, with the turkey is a great way to reduce your intake of the red meat, but still get the protein your body needs. Because we know that with cancer and cancer treatment, you need more protein. So with reducing the red meat, we want to replace it with something else that is also a good protein source. So that's wonderful.
So all we're doing is just getting it to medium-high heat. Just threw in a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Jeremy's just assisting me here. He's throwing in the turkey. The one thing to note about turkey, because it is a little bit leaner as compared to like a red meat, it doesn't have as high of a fat content. So the main thing we want to focus on is keeping and maintaining the moisture, which is why we have the olive oil. The next thing that we're going to add in once it starts to cook a little bit is some tomato paste. So the thing with tomato paste, one thing that Jeremy kind of drives home with school is like getting all those flavors. And there's a certain one that we get a lot of from tomatoes, which is umami. Tomato paste, typically, I recently found out you can get it in a tube. I've been buying it in the little cans and struggling with the can opener to open it, and then not knowing to do the rest of it. But most grocery stores have it in a tube. It's a lot easier to use. So we typically add about a tablespoon, teaspoon, somewhere in between of tomato paste. It's going to add a lot more flavor, umami, also help with the color as well and the caramelization of whatever protein source you end up using for the dish.
We're adding it now?
In like about a minute or so.
How many are familiar with the tube base? Yeah, you are. Because you watched our segments, or you just knew about it?
I cooked for a very long period of time, and I used to live in Europe, and that was the only way you could get it.
Oh.
That's the
very common
only way to get it in Europe.
Interesting.
When I came back to Canada, couldn't get it in food. I used to, when people would come and visit,
Bring you some tomatoes, okay. So we have one member in the audience who is quite familiar with the tube from Europe and would get her friends to smuggle some back for her.
Before it was period,
Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. And then, so one of the things we're going to add in, which you see in the recipe, is spinach. Today we're actually using frozen spinach. And contrary to popular belief, Daniela has taught me a lot about this, and we learned a lot about it in school with frozen vegetables as compared to fresh. I know a lot of people, there's a stigma around thinking one's better than the other.
Yeah, there's that stigma that people think you always have to go fresh, and sometimes that's a barrier, especially if you're tired or fatigued, to increase your intake of fruits and vegetables. So right now, when it's flash frozen at peak of nutrition, and it locks in the nutrition. So they've done some research, and they found that it's pretty well the same, the frozen, the nutrients in the frozen and in the fresh. So you can use both. Yeah.
And the one thing I like with the convenience of the frozen spinach, don't have to wash it, don't have to cut it. It just comes in like a frozen square. Throw it in the fridge the night before or even the day of, let it thaw a little bit, and then just with my hands, just kind of break it apart. Kind of works together. If we want to look back over here, as you can see, we start to get some color on our turkey. So now we can add in the tomato paste, just kind of get a little squeeze in there.
I like that Jeremy's your assistant.
Absolutely.
Yes, roles are reversed for once.
Absolutely. We're learning and teaching at the same time. Speaking of this turkey, a little tip to get that caramelization. I know Kobe knows this. Anytime you're using ground mince, turkey, using beef, using chicken, you want to spread it around the pan, and I would suggest, as nothing too heavy, but the largest pan you have, so that you have more surface area. By creating space like this, you can see here, I'm going to maximize that sort of caramelization. We call the Maillard reaction. Yes. So by allowing it to have that steam in the water inside the mince evaporate quickly, that Maillard reaction, that caramelization is going to happen a little bit quicker. So you can already see, it's a little bit harder here, but I'm already starting to see some color on here. And I am trying to spread it out as much as possible, flatten it out as much as possible, and really not being tempted to scrape it off of the pan too quickly, right? Which I will do now.
Yeah. Right. And then if you just get a moment to flip the camera for me.
Yeah.
So one of the ingredients that we're going to be using, which is our aromatics, which is onions. In regards to this dish, any onion works, yellow, white, red, shallots even are all okay. Just kind of whatever you have available. When it comes to preparing this dish, the one thing I really like, similar to how Jeremy and Shima mentioned, when it comes to watching, your parent or grandparent cook, there wasn't really a lot of measurements kind of being done. I've watched my mom bake bread to making this dish. She doesn't measure anything. It's just all thrown into a pot. So when it comes to onions, you can kind of go based on flavor, how much you kind of want. One thing I really like when it comes to preparing it and adding it to the dish, you kind of cut it to whatever you want to go for. I'm someone who's really big on mouthfeel when it comes to foods. So having different textures, different sizes is really good to kind of make the dish feel like it's not the same thing over and over again. So just took my onion, it's already cut in half. I literally do a little claw method. I like to just kind of cut it so we have long strips, nothing too uniform, just whatever is easiest and simple. Allows me to get as close to the root and have as little waste as possible.
I'm missing my
Chloe was too
remote.
quick. I know.
Perfect.
Director Daniela is like screaming for shot 2. I'm behind him.
Yeah, so we just kind of cut it. So
yeah.
it's just into little strips. Again, nothing too crazy, too uniform. We want kind of that rustic feel. It's all kind of going to be in one pot. And so once we have our turkey cooked off, we're going to add in our onions.
And I like that you chopped some of them ahead of time. We go back to that 10-minute rule we have for garlic, and we also have it for onions, right? So we want to have that antioxidant allicin, our favorite antioxidant allicin, develop. And it takes 10 minutes from when it's chopped for the enzyme to fully develop that allicin antioxidant.
That is one of my favorite tips that Daniela shares in our classes, and it's anything right in the onion.
Allium family, yeah.
Garlic,
So onions,
leeks,
garlic.
onions.
The one thing I did learn though, because we get asked this a lot, is do you still have that antioxidant available if you store the onion or the garlic? And there are Japanese researchers that actually are looking into that, and they found that no, it's best if it's used at that period of time. Yeah, if you store it in oil, it actually you're left with half of it after 3 hours. If you store it in water, interestingly enough, it may last a little bit longer. But so that's just a tip to keep in mind, that if you're using fresh garlic or onions, you get that benefit. But you don't have to worry about it if you don't. Just think of it as a bonus if you're using the fresh garlic or onion. Yeah.
And then, so as we've added the onions, we want to kind of leave them in just till they get a little bit soft, a little more fragrant. Then we're going to add in our Italian seasoning mix. So for us, we just kind of had dried parsley, dried thyme, dried basil, dried oregano, just kind of thrown in. In regards to seasoning, kind of whatever seasonings or flavor profiles you like at home, you can kind of play around with it a little bit. So we just kind of add that in. And I know, Jeremy, you had mentioned before in one of our classes the difference between kind of like our dried herbs versus our fresh herbs. Wanted to add them in for dishes.
Yeah, see, I teach them a few.
Yeah.
Yes, great point. So your dried herbs, dried spices, those essential oils in those ingredients are sort of dormant, right? We want to wake them up a little bit. So adding it to a heat source or warm fat is going to help to sort of accentuate and sort of express a lot of those essential oils. With dried spices, dried herbs, we're going to add at the beginning. Anything fresh, like in Shima's recipe, with that fresh mint, the fresh cilantro, we can leave to the end to sort of finish the dish. If you wanted to add like a fresh leaf of basil at this point, sure, but to really sort of maximize the that flavor, I would say fresh at the end and then the dried at the beginning. Awesome.
Awesome. So once we kind of got all that mixed in, we're gonna go ahead and add in our spinach. Like I said, we're choosing to use frozen today. You can kind of use fresh, frozen, whatever works. With fresh spinach, in terms of the cook time, you are gonna want it to wilt. It's gonna look like a larger volume, but as it cooks, it'll reduce in size. Whereas our frozen spinach, because of the moisture content in it, and when you freeze it, the water kind of breaking up the fibers of the cells of the vegetable, it's already gonna be a less voluminous product. So we're just gonna add that in there.
Beautiful.
So I see you moved the ground turkey over and put the,
Did.
Yeah.
For a second, only because I wanted to show you. So this color at the
Okay.
bottom here, don't be afraid of this color. This is that, what do we call it? The
Fond.
The fond, yes. Yes, it listens to the fond. The fond is that caramelization, all those little bits that come off of turkey or vegetables, any of those caramelized sugars essentially that stick to the bottom of the pan. I'm sure if you've watched any sort of cooking shows, you know that is flavor. That's maximized flavor. We can release that fond by adding some sort of liquid. Kobe added the spinach, the frozen spinach, which is going to start to release some liquid. When we get to the pasta, we'll add a little bit of that pasta water too, which will help to release that flavor. So don't be afraid of that fond, that caramelization.
And then for our pasta today, if you can help me remember the name of this one.
Yes.
A specific one.
Does anyone know? Well, maybe throw it to the audience.
Those the audience.
No.
Here, let me
Shaped
zoom
kind
in.
of like ears.
yeah.
Oh yeah, very close.
Or a cafe.
Very
Yes, very close. Yeah, orecchiette, but yeah, we'll give you the points for that. We'll give you the
10
points for
points.
that. Orecchiette, which, do you know what it means?
Here.
Yeah,
Okay.
baby ears.
Big ears.
Baby ears. I'll say big ears?
Oh, big
Little
ears.
No, big
Little
ears. Baby ears.
There we go.
Baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, you can kind of use any pasta that you have available. This was just the one that we picked up when we went to the grocery store yesterday. But again, penne, any noodle that's kind of accessible. Typically this dish we use like a dried pasta. If you were to use a fresh homemade pasta, if you have the time available for that, it would change the cook time a little bit. But again, just using a dried pasta here. And then with our TV magic, we already went ahead and boiled some. So we have that. So now that we have everything kind of put together is when we're going to add this in. And everything can just be added right into the one pot. You kind of want to mix everything together. The one thing with this dish, as you'll notice, is it's not a heavy sauced pasta. So familiar with things you see on TV and things you might have cooked in the past, typically you add like a can of pasta sauce. This one, it kind of builds its own sauce, like Jeremy mentioned with the fond. We add a little bit of the pasta water, which, fun fact for those of you who are wondering, the reason we add pasta water, which one of the cool things I learned in school, is when you boil pasta, it's going to release some of its starches and its natural kind of coating that's on it. And what that starch does is it also acts as a thickener. So when you add in that pasta water, not only are you going to add in moisture, but you're also going to create a bit of a thickening agent with everything else that's kind of in the pot or pan. As you can kind of see, Jeremy here, if you want to switch the camera, you can see now that we've added more moisture, that fond we mentioned at the bottom, you can kind of scrape a little bit of it off, and that's going to help add to the overall flavor profile of the dish. So we're just going to kind of mix and incorporate all of that. And then the last thing we're going to add in is our cherry tomatoes, which I know you got a couple more fun facts about that as well.
Yes. Actually, I had some fun facts about both the spinach and the tomatoes, and that's the addition of colorful fruits and vegetables, right? We want to have, when we look at our healthy plate, half the plate is colorful fruits and vegetables, and the color is what's cool because the color is what is connected to the special plant component that can help reduce development of cancer in our body, right? So in the spinach, we have like ellagic acid, we have lutein, we have vitamin E. In the tomatoes, we have lycopene. How many of you have heard of lycopene? It's been out there quite a bit, yeah. So it's great that you're introducing both colors and also upping the vegetable intake of your plant, of your pasta dish.
Yeah.
A couple comments from our chat group watching online. Agreeing with you, Kobe. Someone said, as a child of 5, my mom also resorted to a lot of pasta dishes for us.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, you can definitely feed a lot. A great way to get in some of those nutrients. And then for Daniela, crush your garlic before to release the power, as with
Yes.
the few hands up
Release the
emojis
power.
and smiley emojis. So
Okay, so
they
they
like
know.
that one too.
Yeah,
They like that one
they
too.
got it.
Yeah.
They got it. Yeah.
And when it comes to adding vegetables, like Daniela mentioned, in terms of like adding more color to the dish, this is something that very much you can play around with. People in your family, people you're having over, if it has to do with allergies or likeness of certain things. We've chosen spinach and tomatoes. You can throw in broccoli, you can throw in cabbage, anything that's kind of you just want to add in. For anyone who has children, this is a great way to kind of sneak in vegetables. You can distract them with the flavors and the meat and just throw vegetables in. They kind of all wilt in together.
That's right.
Just kind of do all that. So once we've had everything kind of incorporated, we're going to drop our heat. Everything's kind of all mixed in together. The tomatoes. So I like to have my tomatoes just cut in half. I like the nice little freshness, the little punch of like that acidity and the sweetness that comes from cherry tomatoes. So I typically like to add them in at the very end of the dish and then incorporate them in, just so you get that punch of color, flavor. Again, like I mentioned, with mouthfeel and textures.
I know. That was a good move. That was a good move.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So once we have everything incorporated together, give it one last little mix, and then we can kind of plate it all together, and that's the pasta dish for today.
Beautiful. Do you have the cheese? Now, I love the sort of ease of sort of putting this together. The longest and the hardest part is probably just cooking the pasta, right?
Yes.
So everything else, using the frozen spinach, using some cherry tomatoes, which quick wash, and you can even probably have to cut them up, but if you want to release some more of those juices, you can. And then a protein choice, right? And if you wanted to make this a vegetarian,
Yeah, you could completely sub out the protein. You could add tofu if you'd like to.
Yeah,
cook it
complement
off,
tofu.
come the same way. Same kind of Maillard reaction. Want to get rid of evaporate. Depending if you use more of a firmer tofu versus softer tofu, kind of changes again with the texture.
Yeah.
But same thing, you can completely swap out the protein source to make this vegetarian as well.
How about
You
even
could
some
also-
tempeh? We were talking
Yeah.
We
about
were talking about
yesterday.
tempeh yesterday. Yeah, that might work. Yeah, and would give that same crumbly texture feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kobe, what I like about this recipe too, so much to like about this recipe. Like you said, you can swap things out. So for instance, if you are celiac and need to go gluten-free, I noticed that all the ingredients fit except the pasta,
Awesome.
but it's so easy to get gluten-free pasta, so you can just sub that in.
Yeah.
For vegetarian, the tofu is great, the tempeh, but I'm wondering also about cooked beans, whether that might be an option.
Yeah, so beans would also be another great option to add in. I'm going heavy on the cheese here because I'm a really big.
It's okay.
I love
I'm
cheese.
heavy on cheese
It's
too.
okay.
Yeah. And what cheese is it?
Probably something else you picked up from our class
Yeah.
too.
For cheese today, we just went with some fresh Parmigiano Reggiano, and we just grated that. Which one is zoom in?
Zoom in, yes.
Perfect.
Look how
A little
beautiful.
lower.
So we just have that here.
Perfect.
Can you smell it? Yeah. It smells good.